There were so many that lost their businesses during that time. Well, good morning. This is Becky Norwood with Spotlight Publishing, and today we are having a really fun conversation. I will introduce our guests and bring them in. With Spotlight Publishing, our goal is to help our authors, to support our authors in making, knowing how to get their books out to the world and letting them keep out into the world, because there are many books being published today. And a lot of times if an author doesn't know about the marketing that will take it and give it wings, as we talk, it can get lost in the cobwebs of cyberspace. So what we do is here at Spotlight Publishing is with this show here on TV is to not only showcase our fabulous authors that we get to work with, but also to showcase experts who really bring their wisdom to the world in amazing ways. So I'm going to introduce you to all the interviewees. Today we have Robin Galinsky and Dennis Becker, and I will bring them in. And we also have Suzanne Lynn and Suzanne Chesman. She put Lynn, and I don't know which way to go with this. But today is a real day of celebration for Robin and Dennis, and their book launch has been going on this week, and their book is something that as I've read it gave so many. I wish I would have had that kind of information. It's called Outwitting the Manipulator, Protecting Yourself in Real Time. And what an amazing book. I wish I had it when I was going through some things in my past life. And I think
me too.
Yes. So really excited. And Suzanne has an amazing program, and she will be showcased on the last portion of this show, the last half of the show, in fact, on Give Your Book Wings. So welcome to the show, each one of you. And for those that are listening, I hope that you listen and you pick up a copy of the book and really, really pay attention to what we're bringing to you today. So thank you for being here, both of you. And I will showcase all three of you, rather. And I will showcase Robin's and Dennis's book for just a moment, and then we'll have a conversation with the two of them. So just bear with me just a minute. I'm brand new at doing this show thing, so here we go. Uh-oh. So I did that very, very kind of all over the place.
Here we are.
So here I have a little banner, which will also show where people can pick up the book. So let's have this conversation. Today's a real celebration, and in this whole week, you've been really up there in your ranking in a lot of different categories, hot new releases, and almost to the number one. You're number two in some categories, and really happy to see what's been happening with this. So tell us about this book. Introduce both of you. Introduce yourselves, because I think you can introduce yourself even far better than I can, but I can say that I have totally enjoyed working with you guys to get this book brought to the world. And what a fun time this is to be able to say, it's here, yay. Because it's a lot of work. There's a lot of moving pieces in the background. So I'll start with you, Robin. What do you bring to the world, and how did this book come just from your heart to the world?
Well, thanks, Becky. And first of all, I really appreciate all of your hard work and effort. We could never have done this without you. And even just this show, everything you've done. We were just talking about that today. You've been so helpful. And as this will continue, as this continues to unfold, because this is more than a book. So this book really comes out of a couple of things. One is life experience, and the other is recognizing as communication coaches that the vast majority of the anxiety, pain, suffering, if you will, in the world is caused by manipulators. And because we're communication coaches, we like to empower people so that they don't have to suffer in that way. And so we spent 3 years writing this collaboratively, Dennis and I together, giving people the tools that they need for self-protection. And I'm just so excited about this. I have to say, I'm as excited about this as I am having my 2 children. It's right there. It's like
it is like birthing a baby, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And you're a new grandma.
And I'm a new grandma, and I'm still as excited about the book as I am. Don't tell them I said that.
Don't tell them. So, but over and above, you've got a lot of other irons in the fire that you've been doing, and you've got, just give our audience a little your background of how this, what else you do in the world.
Oh boy. So besides being a communication coach, I have been a producer of live storytelling slams. I've done stand-up comedy. I train humor for people who are very boring in the corporate world and want to add influence. So one of my specialties as a communication coach is influence and persuasion. So in the book, we make the distinction. There's a fine line between manipulation versus influence and persuasion. But I am very passionate about those things and grateful that I finally got to the point in my life where I'm doing something that does not feel like work at all. You know, you spring out of bed, you're excited about it. And one of the things that brings me incredible joy is helping people find their own power, their critical thinking skills, and their own free will, particularly women. So after a couple of decades of coaching people for free and helping people do this, I thought, maybe this is one of my superpowers, because I certainly came by the skills the hard way as the target myself. So being able to just open that portal of joy for people who are suffering, it's just so rewarding. I could just float on that when that happens. And so that's how the book came about. Getting it into more hands as quickly as possible.
I started having my daughter work with me in the background, and she was reading she read a lot of the portions of the book in the process, and she was so inspired by it. She's real cool, calm, collected kid, but she had witnessed a lot of the things that had gone on in my life from in my journey to being well and happy and everything. Yeah. And very, very strong in her mind as to nobody's not taking guff off of anybody, type of thing. But when she was reading that, she even took some of the little quotes out of it and posted it on her Pinterest board, because she said, this is something that people need to hear, so it was pretty interesting how that went together. So Dr. Dennis,
happy to hear that.
Yes. Dr. Dennis, tell us what your background is and how this book came to be.
Well, the first thing I want to do, like Robin, I want to thank you, Becky, for all the help that you've given us. This is the 8th book I've written, and by far, this was the easiest process thanks to you. And the coverage and your team that you had together was really a great experience. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
And like Robin, I've been coaching for many, many, many years, more than Robin. And so many of the clients that I meet are folks who either are victims of, targets of manipulators, or who are manipulators themselves. And I've coached in countries and companies around the world, so I've seen all kinds, all sizes, shapes, colors, cultures. They're all capable of being manipulators. And so when Robin and I thought about this idea of writing about our experiences and what we could bring to the world, I was very excited about it, just like Robin. So we're delighted to have the opportunity to help people with this book. So we're excited about its being out, and thank you for your help.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. It's you guys have been fun to work with, and we still have a lot of unfinished pieces because the marketing is such an important piece. We have the mobile app that's coming out, and with a book like this, that was one of your concerns, is how to protect those that the readers who were really needed this information and apply it. And this mobile app is designed to where it can be even a place where they can kind of even without being even discovered, how to even log their own information. So there's some cool stuff that's coming from that. And then there's the digital business card. There's still a lot of little pieces that we need to finish putting together. And that's all part of the process, because there's just a lot that you've had a lot going on for you guys too. Getting this book done.
One of the things that we're proud of is that the technology of today allows us to do the kind of things that you just talked about, having a phone app and so forth. In the book, for example, there are QR codes that when you click on it, you will see 24 individual videos of exactly how to do what we're saying in the book. So like a lot of books, and we've read a lot of books about psychologists and so forth about how to prevent and what happens if you get, this is to be used in real time while you are experiencing a manipulation. So we give you words, we give you facial expressions, tone, speed of speaking, all of it. So it's a different kind of approach, and technology has allowed us to do a lot of that.
It's a fun part of making a book almost interactive, the best you can do at a time. And the work, yes, it was a lot of extra work to pull those kind of things together. But that book, when you click on a video and you feel the heart, the personality behind those words, and you get some of us need more than just reading. We need more than, we need the hands-on. You used graphs inside the book, or charts to step by step of what to do. So there's a lot of interweaving here to make it as viable and as applicable to in the moment issues that are coming up. And
the other thing that we wanted to emphasize, Becky, is that
Well, I will say that we also want to have one-on-one coaching, training, and workshops, but not everybody can do that, right? Not everybody has access to that. So that's why we wanted to make the videos and the book as accessible as we can to as many people as possible. And beyond just learning the skills, it's also important that people know what the backlash is going to be when they implement them. And that's another thing that often people aren't told about. Well, you're back. It gave me the perfect opportunity to answer.
You take over.
I know I didn't manipulate that.
No.
Oh, no.
So going forward, this book, and you're going to be offering coaching. What would you recommend to somebody that is just beginning to realize that they're not so happy with what's going on, and they don't really know what to do about it, but they know that they've got to stand up and do something. Many times we go through a lot of unhappiness before that time comes. So what would you say to somebody that maybe who are facing this unbelievable manipulation, and how do they rise above it?
Well, it certainly isn't simple, and it's not necessarily easy, but it is doable and it is learnable. That's the important thing. And my sisters, I have a lot of siblings, and have you read my book? I sent them an early draft of the book. And one of my sisters said, I'm having a lot of trouble reading your book. And Dennis and I were like, we wrote this in plain, simple English, like we wanted. I said, why are you having trouble reading my book? And she said, because I can't unknow it once I know it. And it's really hard, Robin. So it's the effect that it has is sometimes not only are they things that you can't unknow once you know them. So now you have this awareness, but we also tell you what to do with that awareness. And sometimes, even though you may be a target, you may also realize that you're a manipulator as well. So it's, as a survival technique, I learned to be a manipulator. I'll confess that. I know I can be very manipulative. That's how do you think I'm an expert in manipulation? Oh, I'm just this innocent thing that was targeted. No, I also developed manipulative tactics.
And I think that's part and parcel of what happens.
It is. But part of the writing this book is actually operationalizing that, drawing that curtain back and saying, okay, but once you know it, you can't unknow it. And so therefore, even my daughter said, she goes, well, Mom, one of my daughters, I won't identify which one, but they're both probably could have said this, said, I realize that some of those things apply to me. And I said, well, now that you know that, you know it's unproductive, it's not healthy, now you can stop doing it. So it really is a step toward healthy relationships and just self-awareness that you can't undo once you have it.
One of the significant things that Robin just mentioned is that we're all manipulators. At some time in life, we've all done it, whether it's manipulating a small child to get what you want, or telling or not telling them about the truth about Santa Claus, or whatever it is.
Or customer service when you're trying to return something.
There are so many examples of how people, whether it's a little white lie or it's something that's really for the betterment of that individual, we've all done it. The people we're talking about, these manipulators that we're talking about, these are serious folks who do it all the time. They do not know how to live without manipulating.
Yeah, that's the key.
And their intent is nefarious intent. Their intent is to literally hurt someone else and control someone else and improve their stature. So these folks that we're talking about are very different than the norm of who we might be manipulated throughout our lives at one time or another. This is a very serious book in that way.
And they're about 1 in 10 people. So we use the book, we consciously use the word manipulator. But in that bucket, you will find sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality. There's all these other subcategories. And I said, none of that matters. There's so many books on that where they define them and they go into this checklist. And I said, we don't care about any of that. We just want to use the word manipulator because that's just how people relate to it. And they don't need it. What good does it do if it's a sociopath or psychopath? I'm still suffering at the hands of their tactics.
Right.
So.
Right. Yes, I had quite an experience growing up. My father was extremely a manipulator, and I never even got, after a certain point, there was a lot of abuses of many different kinds, but at a certain point, even all the grandparents, aunts and uncles never were a part of our lives. We were completely isolated from anything, and there was no friendships that could come to our home or anything. And we had to pretty much every letter we wrote, if it was to a grandparent, he read it and he would censor it, and it never went out unless it was what he wanted them to hear.
Yeah,
it was just a lot of things that happened during that time, and it took me a lot of years as an adult. And I think there's still times that I gained a lot from your book, because there's still times that I did avoid confrontation and totally stay away from situations, because I even have a tendency to isolate myself if it's something very confrontational.
Right.
So there's so much there's so much that enters into all of the interweaving of that, into understanding who we are and how to live this wonderful life if we can stand for ourselves.
Yeah, and the good news about all of that.
Oh no, not again. Did we freeze? Uh-oh.
We all froze.
Oh, here we are. Are we back
there
again?
He is. All right.
I was just noting that the good news about this book is that it gives you things to do about that once you recognize it, not just simply feel bad about it, but we will give you very specific words, everything about what to do in real time, which is what makes this book somewhat unique, we understand.
And the beauty is when you develop the skills in there, and some of them are mindset, just changing your mindset about things. When you move that into an unconscious competence, you become a very unattractive target. Yeah. It's not to say that it will never happen, because the fact we're all human and we all are vulnerable from time to time. And it's that vulnerability is the portal.
Mm-hmm. I think sometimes are you guys frozen?
I'm not frozen.
There we go.
I think sometimes back to, my brother used to tease my sister so mercilessly, and she'd cry and she'd throw a tantrum, and finally I said to her, if you just act like it doesn't bother you, don't feed him.
There's no payoff.
Yeah.
And when he started doing that, it changed it. He didn't get as much fun out of it.
That's such a powerful lesson to learn.
That's right.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm not sure why we keep kind of freezing up here, but for those that are listening, their book is on Amazon, And if you just type in Outwitting the Manipulator, it comes right up. If you need to use their names, do. But there's also a link right down at that's been scrolling across the bottom. Pick up a copy and share it. Share it with somebody that you know really needs it, or some bodies that could really benefit from a book like this. And my hat's off to the two of you
Thank you.
what you bring to the world and all that you do for the world. And I think that we are so blessed to live at the time that we're living, because there's so many doing so much good in our world, and it creates that ripple effect of goodness that's out there. Yes, there's all kinds of other stuff, but look what we have here to get our messages out to the world. And
it's amazing.
The tool sets and everything, we're living in an amazing time, even though we've had everything under the sun happen in the last year or so. We still have so many tool sets at our fingertips, and I would always feel that it's truly for the better. That goodness will shine, and goodness does shine in people like you, each one of us, and what we can bring to the world, and it just ripples out to the world. So thank you for being with us on this show, and I'm going to.
Thank you, Becky.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Oh, this is wonderful. And if you want to stick around and listen to the rest
Absolutely.
of it, I think you will truly enjoy it. But be sure, if you're listening, be sure and pick up a copy of this amazing book, and really pay attention to what they're sharing with the world, because it's not a bunch of facts and figures. There's storytelling, and there's true to life things that you can do to really change a situation for the better. And this is what makes this book so amazing and so beautiful. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you so much, Becky.
All right, thank you. We will now go to a break and have just a few moments, and then we'll come back into the next portion of our show, where we will be talking about giving our books wings. We'll be right back. There were so many that lost their businesses during that time.
Authors sell more books, build their brand through video and radio interviews. Got a radio interview where I interview 6 authors every week on my program in Central Florida. And all of our interviews start with video interviews, and they're 8 to 9 minutes long. And we just feel really passionate about marketing with relationship videos. Nobody is going to sell a book better than an author speaking passionately about their own book. So that's the heart behind the videos that we do.
I'm still having trouble learning how to make all this work on the background.
Buttons. I know you're doing a great job.
I was like, let's see, and I've got the wrong banner.
You're doing wonderful.
There we go. Thank you, Suzanne. This is something I have been just so looking forward to, this interview, and we met maybe about a month ago, and I was just so thrilled, because now I can offer something that's so tangible for our authors to be able to put to use and to utilize to help them grow and get their message out to the world. And what you bring to the world is phenomenal. So tell our audience a little bit in depth on how you got started in this and what your program is all about.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, it's totally unfair that I follow Robin and Dennis. Oh my gosh, they're amazing. And their book, I mean, as soon as I hang up, get off this. I think that as soon as we hear about a manipulator, at least one person comes to mind, and that hurt. I mean, I was backstage and I felt the emotions welling up because they speak to what we've all experienced at some point and have to deal with. So, yeah. So what we do is exactly what you and they were doing, is helping the authors. Oh, sorry, I didn't expect this to happen. It's just, and that's the point, is that video, when you're able to interview an author on video, you're able to see their emotions. You see them speaking passionately. It's the greatest marketing tool that an author has. And as I said in the promo, nobody's going to sell the book better than the author themselves when you can make a heart connect. And one of the things that I really loved about the interview that you did with them is all three of you were talking to the audience. You weren't saying, you were saying, if you have a manipulator in your life, or, you were speaking directly. And that's very much what prompted me to begin this product, is that I've been in radio for 30 years and had literally thousands of authors request interviews on my radio shows, the different formats I'm on. And never one time, and I've talked to co-workers and other personalities, has an author ever offered any audio or video to share what type of, first of all, interview they would be, but to share what they offer to their audience. It's not about the author. It's about bringing the audience in and finding common ground and connecting with them emotionally, especially in the first 10 seconds. So all of our videos start with, if I say the word manipulator, does one person come to mind? You're not going to want to change this video, because we have 26 ways for you to combat the tactics they're using against you. Welcome, our next, things like that.
Beautiful.
So.
Well, this show is very new to me, so I'm not the best interviewer yet.
I think you're amazing. Are you kidding? I almost private messaged you. I'm like, whoa.
No. But, that's the thing, is, to me, it's all about the heart and soul behind it. And if we don't show our
And Becky, forgive me, you're frozen. I will just continue to talk. There we go. Okay.
I have no idea what's happening, but
that's all right.
It shows my bandwidth is very low, but
no, that's fine.
It is all good. So, but for me, it's the human connection. Mm-hmm. And until we get raw and vulnerable and authentic in what we share, the books we bring, the marketing we do, any of those things mean nothing unless we make that heart connection. And it's about the storytelling that we weave into it to make it real and connect those fibers together,
Absolutely.
Because storytelling has been with us since the beginning of time. And I'm not sure why I think you're frozen again and I'm talking, but it's about the storytelling. It's about everything. Yeah. And I'm not sure why I'm freezing.
and then knowing how to use those tools. So keeping in mind that when you're just putting up a video that you're doing yourself, which is fine. It's better than not having anything in most cases, although I have seen somewhere it would be better they hadn't posted it now that I think about it. But it's representing your brand. So when you have a video that has the represents your brand as you are, because it's more than selling the book, you're selling your brand. You want to post that on what we consider to be your small stage. And that's everything that's within your arm's reach of what you're able to do without the help or aid of anybody else. So that would be posting a video on your Amazon author page, Facebook, social media, your e-news blasts, your newsletters. And then we offer also for the big stage, as I said, so the personalities can say, oh, they do know how to speak well. Oh, they do offer value to my audience. It's not just about them trying to sell books. So.
Right, absolutely. So you mentioned at the beginning of the show that you'd been in radio for 30 years. Mm-hmm. So when a person uses your services, like Give My Book Wings, which I'm offering in my publishing packages to my authors, because I feel like as much exposure. In fact, I tried to team up all my authors with a grouping of really good people that really have so much to bring to the world. and they offer services that support authors. And that's what I'm looking for all the time when I speak with people, is because there's got to be a way to get our messages out to the world. And it's many places as we can place ourselves that we can do that. That's where the success comes in.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in this? And when somebody works with you, tell the process. So for those that are listening, you'll see that there's a something going across the bottom of the screen. Suzanne has a way that you can work with her as well. But how does that process look for somebody that comes to you and says, I want to give my book wings? How do we do that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we want to make sure that they're going to be successful, first of all. So we want to make sure that the book is compelling, that it's relevant, that it has a defined audience, and that there's a news hook or some type of promotional goal that we can shoot for. So we would sit down, first of all, before I even speak to them, we're able to kind of filter to see if that checks all our boxes. And then once it moves into that, then we want to speak to the author on Zoom or Skype or something to be able to see how they communicate. Are they passionate? And then once we check that off, we have to go, okay, now here's the thing. We give you the tools. We do a good level of marketing, but it's also a framework for what you need to do. We can't send out every possible press release and make every connection. That what we do, though, is give you ideas that maybe you haven't thought of. So we do a brainstorming session for a half hour, 45 minutes to go, oh, wait a minute. Do you mean there are podcasts? Wait a minute. Do you mean there's periodical? Wait a minute. There's someone that you know that this or that. So we're giving them a launching pad to think outside of the forest of marketing that they've already been in. But the truth is, if they're not ready to work as hard as we are and utilize, if they're not going to pull the hammer out of the toolbox that we give to them, of the videos, of the media kits, of the media video pitch, we have them do a 45-second video media pitch to personalities to speak directly to them about why they would be a great guest. If they're not going to use the tools, then we're just not a good fit, because it's got to take everything to work together.
Oh, absolutely. It always, one of the things that I have found that when I first started in publishing, it was interesting that I could help them to get to #1 bestseller. And then if they didn't, so their book's published and they go on their way, and then they're coming back months later, well, my book's not selling. Well, there's so many books being published today. How do you use that book as a tool for business growth? How do you use that book? And I say a fiction writer, a children's book story, memoir, all of it. Your book has to be treated like it's a business, and
Yes.
it's a tool for business growth. And if we don't do that, then all those months of hard work, all the time that is spent is kind of, I don't know what the purpose was for that, because publishing a book in the right way is not for the faint of heart. It is for people that are willing to do the work, because afterwards, after the publishing, is when that whole piece, all of this comes together, and where the marketing tools that we have at our fingertips can be implemented. It just right at our fingertips, do something with it.
Well, you were just hearing Robin talking about being on the same level as grandchildren. I was backstage just absolutely cracking up. But that we have a story in us, and when we take the time and literally labor through it to write this book and to get it out, oh my gosh, how many times an author will call me and say, I thought the hardest part was going to be writing the book. I thought back to it. Why is my book not flying off the shelf? Because they don't know about it.
Nobody knows.
Don't know about it in a personal way. You're not being seen speaking about it with a passion that brought me on this segment literally in tears, because I instantly, through their interview, have a person that I clearly need to revisit. I'm harboring some things in my heart that is not, when Robin talked about being healthy, but it was because of that. If I had seen that in writing, if I had seen a still picture, if I had seen a book trailer, it wouldn't have connected to my heart. And that's the difference, So yeah, so it's a whole package. So it's not just the video. We're able to use that audio on my radio show in Central Florida, and we guarantee a certain amount of views. But really, what we're most proud of and what our focus is are the tools, and then being able to hand those tools, for example, to you, Becky, and going, all right, now we get them seen, we get them to 1 million people, we do this and that and everything. But you are the expert. You are the one that's networked. Here's the hammer. Here's the screwdriver.
It is. And that there is their book, they've done a magnificent job. It took quite a bit. They weren't, like he said, they worked on it for 3 years. Look at the time that went into really bringing this to the world, and their passion. The beauty of it is that there is so much passion behind why they bring it to the world in the first place.
Absolutely.
And
personal.
It's deeply personal, and we're not the only ones that have experienced that. We're all faced with those kind of things, and knowing that there's some solution. Wow.
Yeah.
The ability to have a solution is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, I think I read in your information about the program is that you can help people. What is the reach of your audience as far as your listeners in your radio show?
Sure. Just the radio show alone, we are in Central Florida, and it's a listening area of 500,000 people. So 500,000 people in the listening area that the radio show is on. And I interview 6 authors every week between 12 and 1 Eastern time. It's called Triangle Spotlight. And so, there's a video portion, there's the audio portion. Being able to get that video that we're doing the interview seen by 3,000 people that's in the genre of people who are interested in that. So that video would pop up during a time when they would be watching something that would be applicable to what their book would be targeting. And of course, the media kit is just really different from what other people are doing, because again, it's you speaking to the personality on video for 45 seconds. And it takes a lot of coaching. There's practice and going over, doing an 8 to 9 minute video. It's all very valuable real estate. So every moment, I call it spontaneous. It's planned spontaneity. So with a short amount of time like that, you really have to take advantage of it and not spend time going, oh, well, my author went to Harvard and spent 50 years doing this, and he had whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, for 8 to 9 minutes, because you want this to be a marketing tool that you can use everywhere. And your Amazon author page is not going to allow a video over 10 minutes. So that's a vital place to post your video. But then one of the other things that we're excited about that we've just added on is that we are working with a network of radio stations in North America where we're buying at wholesale prices, and our authors are now able to have 60-second commercials on whatever format targets their audience. So most of them are leaning towards news talk, but we do have some adult contemporary, and even one author that's their target's rock. So so it's just incredible. Getting the word out. Yeah.
That, very, very cool. It's, I think that when we have these tools available, and I think that for most of us, there's a part of us that maybe we're more shy. We're not outgoing type of people, and sometimes it takes a little bit of training to be able to speak with confidence and to really project exactly what we want the world to hear. But there's pillars to storytelling. Yes. And there's pillars to bringing a book to the world, that if you can think of those pillars as the foundation of what you're bringing to the world, that's advocacy, becoming an advocate for others. And this book with Robin and Dennis is they're being advocates for those that have maybe not had the voice yet to stand up for themselves. They're uniting. We become unifiers. We unite people to know, for number one, they're not alone.
Yes.
That they're are many other people that have gone through things like this.
Yes.
And whatever topic we're writing, it's still, there's so many that there's a uniting factor in here.
Bingo. That's exactly
Yeah.
it. Becky, even when I heard you speaking, and Dennis had talked about giving power back to people, I heard you, I could visualize this little girl every time you wanted to reach out to family and just reconnect with your family, as every child wants to, because we innocently don't know all the ins and outs of the politics that are going on. You were pounded a little more and a little more and a little more, and that grows with us. And when Dennis talked about giving power back, oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. Whether it's family, or in my case it's a previous boss, and you just start to accept, like, well, I guess this is normal. I guess somehow, well, don't do that, because then I get this kind of response. To hear Dennis speaking about getting your power back, this is a book that needs to be seen and heard. It's so relatable. I can't imagine there's not a person on earth that doesn't relate to this on some level. It's just
I think everybody does, and and I do know that those who are really the perpetrators of the mean stuff, it's because they get away with it for a long time. And do
you think it's because they were victims themselves, Becky?
I know that to be the case, because they learn from the best. It gets passed on. And I know one thing my father said to me, he ended up taking his life. But what he said to me just weeks before that, and I had no idea at that time what he was going to do. He said to me, "You have broken the chains of abuse in our family. You've broken the pattern." And I said, "What? What are you talking? What pattern?" The pattern of abuse that's been in our family for generations. And it was because for the first time I had to stand. I was learning that I could no longer take what was happening, and I had to stand up and really kind of speak my mind. And for a long time after he took his life, I blamed myself, because I felt like, well, if I hadn't have stood up and been strong with my voice and stood up for myself, for the rest of my family.
And the manipulation continued, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And it took me a very long time to understand that. And it wasn't until I had the courage to write my book and tell my story that I'm not even that person anymore. Right. Because it put so much perspective into it. But it also, when it became a #1 international bestseller and people turned around and said, "Thank you for having the courage to share your story." Now, if I had known what Robin and Dennis are teaching, that would have been completely different. I probably would have done it completely different. But it's realizing that the power of story, the power of being able to teach the way they are teaching, what they're bringing to the world, and that by sharing our stories, we're not only just, we're telling the truth of in the way that we see it, in the way we understand it. And there's a healing, a transformational healing that takes place in that part. And then we're showing the way. We're showing that there is another way. And that's exactly what's happening with this book, with all the books that we're publishing. It's amazing.
Sure.
And then because we've done that, then we begin to leave a legacy. Yes. And we pave the way for others to see, and for our families to see that there is a better way, and to maybe our family won't listen. Sometimes the messages don't get out that way. But
Becky, I look at you, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I look at you, and you're so strong and you're so wise, and I wouldn't have ever guessed. I would have thought, well, she came up in a completely normal family. I mean, how can anybody be this stable and this mature, having had to overcome it? But I almost wonder if it's because you overcame it, that you had to sort through a lot of the stuff that maybe we haven't, as children. I mean, my level is just a boss. I quit. I'm free, but man, when it's a family, like, you can see how you've been you've been shaped and molded in such a beautiful way because you had to overcome that. And I just wonder if maybe their book came into your life at this moment because there's a new level to go to or something.
There is, yeah.
I don't know.
There is a new level to go to. I'm experiencing a situation right now that I've had to really say, no, I'm not. This is not the way it's going to be, and it's
Right.
heartbreaking. But I needed the reminder too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in your experience, are you an author yourself?
I am not. I've actually tried, and I read a few pages to my husband. He's been in the newspaper business for 35 years, and he was very kind. But clearly, it defined the fact that I'm a verbal communicator. I'm just not you're such a talent. The problem, I'm just not a clear thinker, and I think that is, if you are not a clear thinker, put down the pen. That's just my personal opinion, at least for me. And maybe you help sort through that. But my writing is, I'm just better communicating. We'll leave it at that. The world's a better place. If I just put down the pen.
You're still giving voice to your wisdom, and that's beautiful. When I first started, the name of my book is The Woman I Love. And I'm not that person anymore, but the writing of it was very healing. But my husband had got to the point that if I didn't write it, he was going to write it, because he knew that had to be done. And he did start writing it, but I realized that the truth of the story couldn't be told. That was love. And this is a second marriage. He said to me, I'm here for you. I'm here to serve you. And he has stood beside me through thick and thin. And what an amazing, thing. When he said he was going to write it, that's what prompted me.
God is good. I mean, he just brings the right people together at the right time.
He does. So we have a few more minutes, and I was hoping Robin and Dennis were back on. Maybe they will come back on if they hear me.
Okay.
Because I wanted to have a conversation with the four of us.
I'd love that.
10, 15 more minutes left to this call. So if they're listening, I know Robin's sending little messages. So come back on. But in the meantime, what would be your words to an author? And I don't see them. That's why I don't. One says, Robin, yours says that you're not connected. And let me see, is Dennis there? His screen is black. So when I see your faces down in the bottom part, I will bring you back in. But Robin, yours says your device isn't connected. So if you were to speak to an author, which I know you do every day, what words could you share with them that would help them to see the importance of bringing their story to the world in a more powerful way?
I would say, what is your plan to reach people on an emotional level? And what really makes a difference is if they've written a book in the past, how have you marketed in the past and what worked? What didn't work? If it's a first-time author, both of them, it's just so important. What is going to reach people on an emotional level? What tools do you have? How are you going to reach people with your newsletters, with email, with social media in a way that's more than just an update or a meme? How are you going to speak? How can we put you in a place? It's almost like a virtual book signing in multiple, possibly hundreds and thousands of places, but
Right.
To pull them into the story. If they don't see, it's kind of like going over to somebody's house and having home movies come on. You go, oh my gosh, honey, I've got to get out of here. But as soon as they see themselves in the home movie, they're like, well, pop the popcorn. Let's stick around a little longer now. This is getting good, When they can see themselves in the story, meaning in the case of, Robin and Dennis, I can't go anywhere. They're talking directly to me because I've got a manipulator in my life that, I need to deal with this, and that's when they will stick around. That's when they'll buy the book. That's when they'll be like, you got me in my heart. You got me. Yeah.
Yes, very good. So Robin and Dennis, I know you've been probably listening in the background, and I'm really happy that you're still here. I'd like to just open up the conversation from what you've been able to hear from the conversation of what Suzanne is bringing to the table. And I know that both of you, within your business life, you do so much that has far reach, you know. Do you have any questions for Suzanne or observations that we could add to this conversation in a powerful way for our listeners?
I have a
Well,
little
I
bit of
agree.
both of that, if I may. I have a
We love
bit
to
of both.
talk, both of us. Go ahead,
We're
Jeff.
both communication coaches, after all. The first is an observation, Suzanne. The first is an observation that I'm so happy to see that you have embraced the power of public media, mass media, and you are using it for what sounds to me like a wonderful reason. So I congratulate you for that. And that's the lovely part about having mass media and having a free press. Excuse the politics in that sound. My question to you is, what kind of reaction have you been getting from your listeners about the programming that you do?
Well, it really, I mean, it's been overwhelmingly well. It's been very good. I have to say, though, it depends on how much the author is in. And you can see direct book sales based on the connections that they're making and the press that they're reaching out to. We're constantly finding very unique ways for each author to meet their audience. For example, Read Across America is coming up on Tuesday, and we did a very big promotion for a children's author that it's about giving back to the children and being able to have her read her book in front of kids around North America for free, and sharing that they're special and everything. So each author is very different and unique and specially made for each book and what the promotion would be and what their target is. But it's been overwhelmingly, I guess if you look, can you go by reviews? Is that how do you do? We've got 21 5-star reviews on Google. I'm not quite sure.
Well, I know that you're on the right track, and I knew it right away when you began to speak, because often in our business, for short, we say something called INAY, I-N-A-Y. And it stands for, it's not about you. Right. So whenever somebody's speaking, they don't care. It's not about you. It's about what you can do for them. What are you going to do for them? How are you going to help them? And so that is we scream that from the mountaintops from every single client. And I even wanted to trademark this phrase. I never got around to it, but I call it the language of benefit. So as soon as you open your mouth, if it's not about how it's going to help the other person, they're not listening. Right. They don't care. And that's just a fact of life. I mean, it's a hard, cold truth, but that also it's good for people who are driven by wanting to help other people, because when you really do help other people, you realize it's worth more than money, way more than money.
And it always comes back.
And it always comes back.
One way or another. It really does.
Tenfold, hundredfold.
Yes. One of the nice things that both you and Becky are doing, in my opinion, one of the nice things that you're doing is that you are spreading light. And you are putting light in corners that perhaps had a lot of darkness prior to this. And you're giving people the ability to shine that light. And as a result, folks are, what? Me? I could do, it would be me? I could actually, you're giving them power.
Yes.
I really applaud the both of you for that.
I want to add something, tag on that. I've been so immersed. A lot of the work that we writing this book was very triggering. I always had to relive a lot of things to break through the other side. But when I thought about it, I thought, why are there manipulators in the world? Why do they exist? Now there's biological reasons and psychological reasons why but I think about what's the greater meaning behind the manipulator. When I think about it, I think I busted through the other side where I am actually so grateful to them, because I thought, what do the manipulators teach us? They teach us to find our boundaries. They teach us to know what our limits are. What are we willing to tolerate? It's one of the exercises in the book. What are you willing to tolerate? And it really does help us find our edges and define ourselves, because we bump up against them, and they will test the limits of everything, of your ethics, your morals, your patience. So I think that when you can get there, that's even more light, right? That brings even more light, because it's not about resenting them. It's not about pigeonholing them. It's not about blaming them. None of that's productive. It's about being in gratitude. That's the highest vibration we can have. I'm grateful to this person who's being manipulated because they are helping me define what's important to me and what I'll
It sounds
tolerate.
strange to say that. It really sounds odd to say that. We realize
But it's
that.
so
But in the book,
helpful.
one of the things we hope to do by the book is to help people get to the point where they can do that, and not be feeling constantly like a target or a victim, but that you really can be the person who controls your own destiny. And this is one of the things we're trying to do in that book.
And it's not black and white. It's not, I'm the good guy, they're the bad guy. A lot of us love that mindset. Every movie, every book, everything is bad guy, good guy, right? We're all both. And so the sooner we can integrate the shadow side of ourselves and recognize our own manipulative tactics, the sooner we can evolve.
We were worried about, when we went to write this
Sorry,
book.
we're not letting them talk.
Oh, that's okay.
This is the last thing I'll say that I know I won't talk about. We were really concerned about, should we write this book? Because the world we've been in for so many, many years, we've learned a lot about this. And we thought, well, geez, if we write this book, manipulators are going to read this book. And they're going to learn some things about what to do and what not to do.
Wow.
We thought very seriously about that. And we were very concerned about it. But we ultimately obviously decided to write it because we felt like we wanted to give
They already know the things. They're already doing this.
We wanted to give it to the people who were targets and perhaps who hadn't thought about it, and give them control over what we refer to as the momentum of the moment in which the manipulation is happening. So obviously we decided to write it for that reason.
I'll just jump in real quick and say that in response to that, it seems to me that the master manipulators already think that they've got it under control, and that they don't need help. They don't need coaching. They don't need assistance of any sort.
Right.
What I was just going to say, I was going to say about 5 things, but I want to jump back to this because I keep going back to Becky's manipulation as a child. And that is what breaks my heart. I could walk away from my manipulative boss. Not everybody could. She had no choice. She couldn't. That is beyond.
It took me half a century to stop speaking to my mother. I just stopped speaking to her 18 months ago, but I can tell you there's thousands of betrayals that have been piled on where I forgave and hoped and tried. And then I can't tell you when I finally just, everybody says, your mom's still alive. You should have a relationship with your mother. But I say, they don't understand what it's like to have that type of manipulation, and they don't understand. I'm glad they don't. I'm glad people have normal moms who are loving. It's very hard. That's a very difficult relationship because that is our most coveted relationship in society is mother and daughter, right?
Right.
It's very hard, but it did make a dramatic difference because everything got better. I realized it was like taking a little bit of poison every time I spoke to her.
Yep. And I'm experiencing that with my daughter right now. And finally I said, no more. And when I did that, I feel like such a huge weight is released because I had to protect myself. But man, it meant no grandkids and, all the other things that went with it. But
Becky,
I had to be well too.
Absolutely. Our primary thing is we have to take care of ourselves. But I will go one step further and say that my ultimate dream for this book is that each and every one of us, like Becky did with her daughter, I did with my mother, draw those boundaries for those manipulators. They will have no choice but to evolve or be alone. So if you think about it, it's a form of love. It's a tough love, but it's a form of love because whatever you reward, you're going to have more of. And we owe it. We owe it to everyone else to draw the line with manipulation.
And when you draw that line, they see it. They notice that. They won't stay with you. Manipulators want easy targets. When you draw the line, they think, no, I'm going to move on. They don't want to work at it.
Where to turn.
I want to just give one piece of just a little bit of light. A very special person in my life and I went through 6 years of not speaking, and I just thought there was no way. I would say the sky was orange, and she'd say it's red, and there was no common ground whatsoever, and it was just a dead end completely. Well, last year, the year from heck, 2020, the worst year ever, she and I reunited.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
We have a relationship better than I could have ever imagined. But you know what? We needed those 6 years to grow and change. People have come into our life and left since then that we needed to. Yeah. And we wouldn't have, I believe that God, in our case, God healed both of our hearts. And we were able to ask for forgiveness. But it did that 6 years. It
That's
took people
wonderful.
coming and going, and it wouldn't have happened if we had just kept fighting. We
Right.
needed that time.
Well, I apologize because we only have like just a few minutes or a few seconds left to this show.
Okay.
I have enjoyed this. It's so awesome. And for those that are listening, take to heart and pick up a copy of the book, and also check out Suzanne's Give Your Book Wings program. What it does is get your message really spread out there, really bring your light to the world, and use the tool sets that are available to each one of us right now. I think we are living in an unprecedented time. We have so much at our fingertips, and being able to even be on a show this way where it's on the E360 TV, it's on, which is Roku and all these other places, and it's on Facebook and it's on YouTube. It's going live right at this moment. How blessed we are. But the next show, it's time for the next show. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you, Suzanne. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You guys, thank you for what you're
Thanks
doing.
for the opportunity.